Alright, so today I'm going to be showing you how you can use Excel in order to calculate a weighted average. So what we're going to do here is set up a data set in Excel that has salaries for employees at a company. And we're going to have kind of different tiers of salaries, and then there are going to be a certain percentage basically of employees that are at that tier or that level. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and type employee level here, and we're going to do levels 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then here I'm going to type the average salary, and we have values of 500,000, and then 125,000, 63,000, and 36,000. So probably this top level will be for like top level executives, CEO, something like that. And then over here, I'm going to have the percent of employees. And we're going to have 2% at this top tier level, 4% here, the majority, 7% there, and then 24% here. Okay. Now, there are some formatting things that I want to talk through first. The first thing is that you probably notice these are kind of getting cut off. So I can only see employee and then LE instead of level. So what I want to do is I want to resize my columns so that they actually fit my data properly. And this is incredibly easy to do. You can do it one column at a time, or you can select multiple columns. So let me first show you how to just do one column, and then we'll go ahead and practice and do all three at once. So what you can actually do is you can just kind of move your mouse so that it's between the two columns that you want to kind of fix, with the left-hand column being the one that's kind of messed up. So between A and B, I'm going to be fixing column A. So I'm just going to move to where I see kind of this straight line with two arrows. And all I actually have to do is just double click with my mouse, and it's automatically going to resize this column so that I can see all of my text. Now, once you're here, you could also click and drag, like if you wanted it to be even wider or more narrow for some reason. But if you just want Excel to automatically kind of fix it for you, you can just double click. Now, let me go ahead and undo that so we can kind of refix all of them at once. So we have three columns that I kind of want to be fixed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just click on A and highlight and drag all the way to C. And then what I can do is I can go ahead and find that same symbol. I can go kind of in any of these places between A and B or between B and C. And I find this symbol, this straight line with the two arrows, and I double click, and it automatically resizes all three of these columns for me, which is quite nice. Now, another thing that you might have noticed is when I was typing in the percentage, I did go ahead and type the percent sign in, and Excel is smart. It does know that that is a percentage, so it will treat it accordingly, which is great. The one thing that I didn't do when I was typing this in is with the salaries, I just left them as kind of whole numbers without any dollar signs or anything. It might be kind of nice to make this look a little better though by adding dollar signs, and that would probably also add commas for me, so the numbers would be easier to read. So I want to fix all of these cells from B2 to B5. So all I'm doing here is I'm clicking on B2 and I'm dragging to B5 to select all of the cells that I want to fix. And then what you should kind of see somewhere around here is you'll either see this little currency symbol or maybe a dollar sign. And you kind of want to click somewhere around there, and I just want English US currency. I want it to be formatted like that. So if I just click on this symbol itself, or I click on the little drop down and click on English, it's going to automatically put dollar signs out front for me, which is really nice. So this looks quite a bit nicer. It did also add columns, or commas, not columns, and it added cents if we had them. We don't in this case, so those are just 0, 0. Now, if I didn't want those decimals there, I could get rid of them. And again, I'm just clicking and dragging and highlighting all of my data that I want to change. And kind of right next to where the dollar sign and the percent sign and the comma actually are, there's this increase or decrease the number of decimal places. I want fewer decimal places, so I'm going to click on decrease, It gets rid of one decimal place at a time. So now you'll notice I just have 1 0 left over. And I'm going to get rid of one more. And so now this looks pretty nice. Okay, so I have my employee levels. Now this 4, 3, 2, 1, those particular numbers don't really mean anything. Instead, we could have like CEO, manager. It would kind of mean the same thing. They're just kind of different tiers of employees. The important pieces of information are the percentages and then the average salary. So I'm going to show you guys 3 different ways of computing a weighted average, and it is up to you to pick the one that you like. Okay, this is something you'll be using for your first project, so you can just kind of decide the method that you like. The first way we're going to do it is kind of the same way that we would do it by hand, but we're just going to basically use Excel to do the work for us. So if you remember, when we're calculating a weighted average, basically what we're doing is we're multiplying and then we're adding things together, and then we're dividing by the total weight. So I'm just going to create a new column here that's called multiply, and all I'm going to do is have Excel do the multiplication for me. So if I were to do this by hand, I would take the 500,000 and multiply it by the 2%. I don't really want to have to do that by hand though, so I'm going to have Excel do that for me. So if you recall from descriptive statistics, when you want Excel to do some kind of computation for you, when you want to create a formula, you have to type equals first. So we're going to start with that. And all I want Excel to do is to multiply the 500,000. So I'm going to click on my 500,000, or you can type B2 if you wanted. And then I want to multiply, so I use the asterisk. That's the shift version of your 8 key. And then I want to multiply it by the 2%, okay? Excel knows that 2% is 0.02, so you don't need to do anything with that. And if you were to do that, you get 10,000. And then I actually want to do the same thing all the way down. So I want to take equals my 125,000 times my 4%, hit enter. But I'm going to be kind of lazy. I don't want to have to type this a bunch of times. So I'm actually going to delete this 5,000 and show you guys a better way of doing it. So once you have a formula here, if you want to copy it down this whole column, all you actually have to do is go to the bottom right-hand corner of your cell that you want to copy, and you should get this solid plus sign, okay? It should turn from white on the inside to black. And what you can actually do is just double click, or you can click and drag. So double clicking would do this. Let me undo that. I can also click and drag it down. It'll do the same thing. And what it automatically does is it multiplies for me. So here in cell D3, it's taking B3 times C3. And then in the next row, it's using row 4, and finally row 5. So this is great. It's doing everything just the way I would like. One thing I'm noticing is that it's formatting some things as $signs, some things not. I don't really need it formatted at all right now, so I guess I can go ahead and leave it as $signs since we are ultimately talking about dollars. So I'm just going to highlight all of these, click on that currency button. I'm going to get rid of a couple decimals here. Now, after we've multiplied, all we have to do is add everything up, and that's going to give us our weighted average. So I'm just going to create a little label here called weighted average, and I'm just going to type equals, and all I actually need to do is just add these 4 numbers up. So in Excel, if you want to add things, you can use the function called sum. So this works the same kind of way that the average formula worked, or the median formula. You just click on sum, and then you just highlight your data here. So I want to add these 4 data items up, and I click enter, and that is my weighted average. So this gives me an average that is actually fair to look at. If I were just to have taken the average of these 4 numbers, that would not really have been an accurate representation of what's happening at this company, because if you look at the percentages of employees, only 2% of employees are making that $500,000 salary, whereas the majority of employees are making $63,000 or less. So this takes into account those weights and makes it kind of a fair comparison. You'll notice that the weighted average is very close to this 63,000 because that is the majority of your employees. So this is one option, and this shouldn't be too bad to do at all. This is basically taking what you would do by hand and just plugging it into Excel. So that's option one. If you're happy with that, you could probably stop the video now. I do want to show you kind of two other ways that you could possibly do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this multiply column. I don't really care about that. I'm going to create one formula that would work for weighted average without having to have that multiply column. So this is actually the way that is shown in your textbook. It's probably my least favorite way of doing this, just because it's kind of easy to click on the wrong cell, but it works just fine. So if you think about it, in order to find a weighted average, all you're doing is you're multiplying the things that go together and then you're adding everything up. So you can actually just create one formula in Excel that will do that for you all at once. So I can type equals, and then I can take my 500,000 times my 2%, and then add it, so do a plus sign, 125 times 4%, and then add that to 63 times 70%, and then add that to 36 times 24%. So again, all I'm doing is I'm multiplying the things that go together, so the 500,000 times the 2% and so on. And then I'm just putting plus signs in between them so that Excel will add everything together. And we should get that exact same answer that we did before, the $67,740 as your weighted average. So this is the exact same thing. It takes out the need for that multiply column, so it's maybe a little bit of a shortcut, but you just want to make sure that you're really careful in selecting your cells so that you don't select something that's incorrect. The last method I want to show you is my favorite method because I think it is kind of the most useful and kind of outside of the world of Math 123. So you can actually use a new sort of, it's a formula, I guess, that is not in your textbook. It's called sum product, all one word, so SUM, and then the word product. So if you want to use that, it's pretty easy to use, and all I have to do is type equals to tell Excel that I want to type a formula, and I'm going to start to type sum, and what you'll notice is if I just type S, there aren't that many options. Sum product is about 3/4 or so the way down here, okay? So sum product is the one I want, so I'm going to select it. And then all you actually need to do is you need to select the two columns of data that you have. So my first kind of set of data items are the salaries. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to click and drag and highlight the salaries. And then I'm going to put a comma, and then I need to highlight the weights. So I'm highlighting the percentages that come next. And that's actually all I have to do. Then I can just click enter, and it's going to give me that same $67,740. What sum product is actually doing is it's taking the paired products, so it's multiplying the 500,000 times the 2% and so on, and then it's summing them all together for you, which is quite nice. It's a really sort of easy formula to use if you just give it a try. That would be my recommendation. It works really well when you have percents as your weights, okay? So I would highly recommend that because your project is kind of structured like that. Hopefully this was helpful. If you guys have any questions about doing weighted averages in Excel, please do not hesitate to email me.